They say the heavens speak in lightning, but that night they spoke in silence. A voice crossed the void, not as sound, but as presence. It was not a warning. It was a calling. Those who heard it did not know where it came from, but felt as though time itself had stopped, as though every breath weighed the worth of a soul. The voice said the path was only one, that every truth had been distorted, that every heart, in its search for freedom, had become a prisoner of its own desire. And in that moment, many realized it was not the world that was on trial. It was them. And as the echo of the voice faded into the darkness, some souls began to be drawn into the valley of redemption. The world seemed awake, but it was only the dream of the dead. They called doubt freedom, pride courage, and emptiness peace. Beneath artificial lights, they built fragile truths, shaped to the taste of every desire. Each voice spoke what it wished to hear, and the noise became comfort. They called it choice, never realizing that the chains carried the sound of freedom itself. The ancient voice returned, not in thunder nor in visible signs, but in echoes within the sleeping conscience. It spoke of forgotten paths, of gates once opened, and of men who had closed them with their own hands. It was a calling that came not from without, but from a place so deep it wounded to be heard. And then the silence became a mirror. Before it, no one could pretend. Every gesture, every deception, every lie told to oneself took shape. They turned their faces away, trying to escape what could see within them. But it was too late. The mirror saw everything. The air felt heavy, as though time itself had stopped to listen. From the horizon, a light began to move. Slow, dense, impossible to gaze upon for long. It did not burn the skin, but it burned within. Every shadow it touched revealed something forgotten. Memories, guilt, broken promises. The presence did not speak, yet everything in it was word. The wind ceased. The voices fell silent. Even the sound of the heart seemed to wait. Then the light crossed the void, and the void ceased to exist. There was no room for falsehood before it. For a brief moment, the world seemed to remember what it meant to be true. Some tried to hide, others simply knelt. And in that gesture they understood. The voice that once whispered now watched them in silence. It did not judge with anger, but with truth. And that truth hurt more than any sentence. The revelation did not come as a promise, but as a mirror. And no one could say they did not know what they were seeing. The light grew until there was no more night. It came not from above, nor from without. It came from within. One by one, all were touched by it. No word was spoken, yet every soul knew what was being revealed. There was no accusation, only remembrance. Every forgotten gesture, every hidden thought, every choice made in silence rose to the surface like embers beneath the ash. Time no longer existed. Everything happened at once. The past, the mistake, the remorse, the longing to return. Some tried to justify themselves, but their voices produced no sound. Others wept, and their tears fell heavy upon the ground. The presence did not move, it only watched. It was as though love itself were looking, not to condemn, but to show what had become impossible to deny. And before that gaze, no disguise endured. Pride broke apart, fear fell silent, and the whole body trembled before the truth. No one was pushed, no path was imposed. Each went toward the light or the shadows their heart recognized as its own. There was no sentence, only revelation. And when all fell silent, what remained was the certainty that eternity had already begun. When the radiance faded, silence became absolute. No sound, no movement, only the sense that something irrevocable had been decided. Not by decree, but by reflection. Each soul stood before what it had chosen to love, and that love, pure or corrupted, was now its own destiny. Some moved towards the light as one returning home. They needed no invitation. The presence recognized them, and they vanished within it, wrapped in a peace too vast for words. Others remained still, bewildered, trying to understand why the brightness wounded them instead of welcoming them. The light called, but they could not move. It was as if the very weight of their choices pulled them downward. Then a wind blew, and the ground opened in silence. No scream, no sound of terror, only the slow fall of shadows. Like leaves, autumn returns to the earth. The presence did not intervene. It simply watched, serene, for everything had been spoken long ago. The heavens remained still, and for an instant the universe seemed suspended between two breaths. It was the moment when eternity took shape, not as punishment, but as consequence. What had been sought in life now became dwelling. What had been denied became distance. And when at last the light withdrew, the world fell silent. A silence so deep it seemed to hear the very heart of time beating. When the light dispersed, only a distant gleam remained, like the final trace of dawn upon the horizon. The world seemed untouched, yet nothing was the same. The air carried a stillness that was not peace, but remembrance. The earth held the weight of what had been revealed, and every shadow seemed to bear a name. Those who had entered the light were no longer memory nor absence. They were like a breath passing through time, sustaining the hope of those who remained. And those who were lost were not far. They were on the other side of the same silence, trapped within the reflection of all they had chosen to become. The narrator looked upon the emptiness and understood that the judgment had not been an event. It had been the mirror of life itself. No sentence from above, only the echo of every decision returned to its source. Eternity had not begun there. It had merely been revealed. At last, the voice returned, gentle, almost imperceptible, like a wind touching the ashes. It did not say, "Stay," nor "Come." It said only, "Remember." And the narrator understood that the end was not ruin, but return. Return to the truth that had always been there, waiting for mankind to cease its running. The sky darkened, the earth remained still, and in the heart of silence something continued to pulse, as if creation itself were breathing once more, awaiting the next awakening. Time passed, yet the sound of that voice never ceased. It lingers among the ruins and the days, crossing the distance between what we were and what we might still become. Every word spoken that night echoes in our gestures, our choices, and in the silences we pretend not to hear. Eternity is not a distant place. It is the reflection of what we carry now. Every act without forgiveness, every kindness forgotten, every truth denied shapes what awaits us. And when the light returns, it will not ask what we believed, but what we became. There are paths that still open, though they announce themselves to no one. They arise in the moment the heart falls silent and chooses to see. For nothing is ever lost. It merely changes form. Love does not forget. Justice never sleeps. And when all falls silent once more, the echo of eternity will continue calling every soul by name. In the Valley of Redemption, every life finds the reflection of what it chose to be.